Cale Thornwood rode alone through the border woods, and he liked it that way. As the Alpha King of Ashvale, he was rarely given a moment without eyes on him. His council wanted answers he did not have. They wanted him to name an heir, to choose a mate, to settle the future of the kingdom as if it were a piece of furniture that simply needed placing. He had left the meeting without a word and taken his horse into the trees, needing the quiet the forest always gave him. The wind shifted, and he caught it. Blood, faint but unmistakable, and beneath it, something else, Omega. He followed the scent without thinking twice. It was instinct, the same instinct that had made him a strong leader and a stronger fighter. He moved through the brush until he reached the edge of a ravine, and there she was. She lay crumpled against a fallen tree, her dress torn, her skin pale except for the dark red spreading across her side. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. Cale dropped from his horse before it had fully stopped moving and knelt beside her. "Can you hear me?" he asked. There was no answer, only a faint flutter of her eyelids. He pressed his hand against the wound to slow the bleeding and felt his heart pound in a way it hadn't in years. This was not a hunting accident. The cut was too clean, too deliberate. Someone had done this to her. He lifted her into his arms, surprised by how light she felt, and rode hard for the palace. His arrival caused an uproar. An unclaimed Omega, wounded and unidentified, carried into the royal halls by the king himself, was not something his advisors could ignore. Whispers followed him down every corridor. He ignored them all, and carried her straight to the healer's wing. "Save her," he said, "whatever it takes." The healer, an old and steady woman named Myrna, worked through the night. Cale did not leave. He sat in the corner of the room, arms crossed, watching the rise and fall of the stranger's chest as if his own breathing depended on it. By morning, Myrna assured him the girl would live. "She's stable," Myrna said, wiping her hands. "But my king, we don't know who she is. For your safety and hers, I should run the blood test. It's standard for any Omega brought into the palace unclaimed." Cale nodded. He had almost forgotten the practice, a ritual dating back generations, meant to identify pack lineage so that no Omega could be falsely claimed or hidden from her true family. It was tedious, but necessary. The results came back within the day, and when Myrna read them, her face went pale. "My king," she said carefully, "this cannot be right. What is it?" "Her blood carries the Voss marker. She is of the Voss bloodline." Cale felt the floor tilt slightly beneath him. Draven Voss was his general, his closest friend, the man who had fought beside him since they were boys learning to hold a sword. If this girl carried Voss blood, she was family to him, and yet Draven had never once mentioned a daughter, a sister, a cousin, anyone matching her description. "Test it again," Cale said. Myrna did. The result did not change. Cale chose to say nothing to Draven yet. He told himself it was strategy, that he needed more information before raising something so serious with his most trusted ally. But quietly, beneath that reasoning, was something else. A caution he could not explain. He decided to wait and watch the girl instead, to learn what he could from her when she woke. She woke 3 days later, disoriented and frightened, flinching at every sound. Cale made sure he was the first person she saw, hoping his presence, calm and steady, might ease her fear rather than add to it. "You're safe," he told her. "You're in the Ashvale Palace. My name is Cale." She stared at him for a long moment before speaking. "Ren," she whispered. "My name is Ren." Over the following days, Cale visited her often, more often than his duties strictly allowed. He told himself he was gathering information, piecing together what had happened to her. In truth, he found himself drawn to her in a way that unsettled him. She was quiet but sharp, gentle but unbroken by whatever she had survived. When she spoke of her past, it came in fragments, as though her mind was protecting her from remembering all at once. She told him she had been raised by her mother in a small cabin far from any pack territory, moving every few years, never staying long enough to make friends or roots. Her mother had never explained why, only that it was necessary for their safety. Ren had always assumed her mother was running from something, but she never knew what, until her mother's sudden death 2 years earlier left her utterly alone. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should never go looking for my father's family. Ren said one evening, staring at her hands. She said they would kill me if they knew I existed. Kale's chest tightened. Did she ever say a name? Ren shook her head. No. She was too afraid to even say it. Kale did not tell her about the blood test, not yet. He needed to be certain before he placed that weight on her already fragile shoulders. He began investigating quietly, sending trusted men to trace Ren's mother's movements over the years, careful to keep the inquiry hidden from Draven. It took time, but slowly, pieces came together. Ren's mother had once lived within Voss territory, decades ago, before disappearing without explanation. No records remained of why she left, only that her departure had been sudden and unspoken of since. More troubling were the reports Kale received about the day Ren was found. Villagers near the woods recalled seeing men in Voss colors moving through the area shortly before she was discovered, men who had no official reason to be there. Kale brought this news to Ren gently, watching her carefully as he spoke. Her reaction was immediate and visceral. Her hands began to shake, and her breathing quickened. "I remember running," she said, her voice barely audible. "I remember men chasing me through the trees. I thought it was a dream, but it wasn't, was it?" "No," Kale said softly, "it wasn't." She closed her eyes, and slowly, painfully, more memories surfaced. She recalled a voice among her pursuers, deep and commanding, giving orders to the others. A voice she had heard once before, faintly, in a memory from early childhood, a voice her mother had once flinched at. "I don't know his name," Ren said, frustration and fear mixing in her tone, "but I would know that voice anywhere." Kale felt a cold certainty settle over him. He needed to test his theory, however much it pained him. He arranged a private meeting with Draven, under the guise of discussing border patrols. As they spoke, Kale listened carefully, and when Draven raised his voice slightly in frustration over a disputed territory line, Kale saw it, a flicker of recognition, sharp and cold. He said nothing to Draven that day, but he knew. That night he told Ren what he suspected, watching her carefully as the pieces settled into place in her mind. Her expression shifted from confusion to devastation to a quiet, burning anger. "He's my family," she said, "and he tried to kill me." "I don't yet know why," Kale admitted, "but I intend to find out." Kale devised a plan, one that would force Draven's hand without putting Ren at unnecessary risk. He allowed word to spread quietly through the palace that the Omega girl found in the woods had survived and was recovering under his protection. He made sure the information would reach Draven through the usual channels of palace gossip, then waited. 2 nights later, his instincts proved correct. A guard reported unusual movement near the private wing where Ren was staying, someone moving with practiced stealth, clearly trying to avoid detection. Kale was already prepared, hidden nearby with a small number of trusted guards, ready to intervene the moment it became necessary. Draven entered Ren's chamber just after midnight, his expression unreadable, his hand resting on the hilt of a blade at his side. Kale stepped out from the shadows before Draven could take another step further into the room. "Looking for something?" Kale asked, his voice low and controlled despite the storm building inside him. Draven froze, then slowly turned. For a moment, something like guilt flickered across his face, quickly replaced by a colder, calculating look. "You don't understand what's at stake," Draven said. "Then explain it to me." Draven's jaw tightened. Her mother should have stayed hidden. If anyone learns her lineage carries a stronger claim to the Voss seat than mine, everything I've built collapses. I have led that pack faithfully for years. I will not let a stranger raised in the woods take it from me. "She's your blood," Kale said, disbelief and anger sharpening his words. "You tried to have her killed." "I did what was necessary," Draven said, his composure cracking slightly. "I've served you loyally for a decade, Kale. Don't let one complication ruin everything we've built together." "You made her the complication," Kale said. "Not me." The confrontation grew tense, both men refusing to back down, until Draven, sensing the situation slipping from his control, moved toward the door, only to find it blocked by Kale's guards. Realizing he was cornered, Draven's expression hardened into something desperate. It was then that Wren, who had been listening from the adjoining room, stepped forward. She was pale but steady, clutching a worn leather journal in her hands, one of the few possessions she had carried with her since childhood, left behind by her mother. "I found this among my mother's things," she said, her voice trembling but clear. She wrote everything down, where she came from, what she saw, why she left. She knew the truth about the Voss lineage records, and she knew you falsified them to secure your claim. Draven's face went white. Cale ordered the journal examined immediately, and by morning its contents were confirmed by palace scholars familiar with Voss family records. The evidence was undeniable. Draven had altered his own lineage documents years ago to erase any trace of Wren's father's true standing in the family line, a standing that would have placed Wren, not Draven, as the rightful heir to the Voss pack. Faced with the truth laid bare before the court, and with his own men no longer willing to stand behind him once the deception came to light, Draven's position crumbled entirely. He was stripped of his title and his standing within Ashvale's alliance, exiled from all territories under Cale's protection, his years of service unable to outweigh the harm he had caused. Wren, still adjusting to the weight of everything she had learned, was formally recognized as the rightful heir to the Voss pack. She chose not to claim the position immediately, telling Cale she needed time to heal, to understand who she truly was, before stepping into a role thrust upon her by blood rather than choice. Cale respected her decision without hesitation, offering her a place within Ashvale for as long as she needed it. In the weeks that followed, their bond deepened in quiet, unhurried ways. Cale found himself seeking her company not out of duty, but out of genuine desire, drawn to her strength and the quiet resilience she carried, despite everything she had endured. Wren, in turn, found comfort in his steadiness, a stark contrast to the chaos and fear that had defined so much of her life. One evening, Cale walked with her to the edge of the same woods where he had first found her, the very spot where everything had begun. The trees stood tall and quiet around them, the fading light filtering gently through the leaves. "I've thought about that day often," Cale said. "I told myself I simply caught your scent on the wind, that it was chance that led me to you. And now?" Wren asked. "Now I think it was never chance at all," he admitted. "Something in me knew, long before I understood what it meant." Wren looked up at him, a small, genuine smile forming for the first time since he had known her. "I'm glad you found me," she said. "Even if it started with blood and fear, I'm glad it led here." Cale took her hand gently in his. "This is only the beginning," he said. "Whatever comes next, you won't face it alone." They stood together at the edge of the woods, no longer strangers bound by chance, but two people who had found, in the midst of betrayal and danger, something steady and true. The forest that had once been the site of her greatest fear had become, instead, the place where her new life truly began.